Good morning. Good morning to everyone to this panel on urban air mobility. The subject is very interesting, is challenging, so welcome to this one. Let me spend no more than 1 minute to introduce myself. My name is Fulvia Quagliotti. I'm the president of the Piemonte Aerospace Cluster, and formerly I was a professor of flight mechanics at Politecnico di Torino. And I started in 2005 to work on unmanned aerial vehicles. So this is the reason why I'm here as moderator. So please, I ask the person present here to introduce themselves briefly. So Carlo, please, can you start yourself?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlo Tursi. I am CEO of UrbanV. UrbanV is an Italian company, but we're based in Rome. We are a vertiport network operator, so we are designing, starting to build actually with the goal of eventually operating vertiports for both people transport and cargo deliveries in Italy, in Europe, and at an international level. And it's great to be here.
Thank you, Carlo. Andrea?
Hello everyone, Andrea Regaglia, thank you for having me. I'm a managing director within Accenture, which is a service company, as some might know. Within that, amongst other responsibility, I take care of what we call Mobility X, that is really mobility 360 degrees, as we used to see, meaning ground transportation, but also maritime, rail, and a bit of air transport. So the way we see at this is really holistically in order to make sustainable mobility as much as possible.
Thank you, Andrea. Nacho?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Nacho Rexach. I'm Chief Commercial Officer of EHang for Europe and Latin America. EHang is a world-leading urban air mobility aircraft system company. We were the first urban air mobility company to be publicly listed in NASDAQ, and we have been the first company to obtain a type certificate for an eVTOL aircraft for passenger transportation. And we are basically focused on enabling safe, efficient, and sustainable air mobility for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrea? Oh, sorry, Davide. Sorry.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Davide Cagnoni. I'm an aerospace engineering for the company DigiSky. For the one that don't know how, DigiSky is a company that main operate in the field of the remote aerial sensing, but last year we have focused also on the urban air mobility and the advanced air mobility with project not aimed to conceive an eVTOL able to get an type certificate like EHang, Volocopter, and other company are doing, but we are aiming to create a local supply chain for the future market of the urban air mobility and advanced air mobility. Thank you.
Thank you, Davide. Let me say that we have a very impressive experience here, so I'm very proud to moderate this panel. I have a couple of questions for each of you. The first one is, what is, in your opinion, the contribution of urban air mobility to the general subject of the sustainable mobility in the field of your expertise?
Sure, absolutely. So when we talk about urban air mobility or advanced air mobility, you know, people often refer to it as flying cars or flying taxis. While the analogy is very evocative, you know, it is not exactly correct, in my opinion, in that while a taxi picks you up at your doorstep and drops you off at your final destination, this, you know, advanced air mobility, at least for the foreseeable future, will move in between stations that are vertiports, which means that it inherently is a segment of every journey that a person will need to conduct from A to B, which means that it is inherently intermodal. So urban air mobility, which starts as a sustainable form of mobility because eVTOLs, as the E suggests, are powered by electricity, which in most cases, in our case for sure, will be sourced by renewable sources. This form of mobility will need to be interlinked with other forms of mobility. And so we're really thinking about the cities of the future, we're really thinking about the mobility of the future, where we can imagine a seamless flow and a seamless transition from one mode to another within a city or within a journey for every passenger, where it will be important to ensure a seamless flow of both in the physical world, but also in the digital sphere, in order to ensure that this trip can happen with as little as possible environmental impact, ideally zero emission, but also in a seamless way that makes the trip very convenient, other than affordable, for the passenger who eventually needs to move from A to B. And just to give you an example, at UrbanV, we are already starting to develop vertiports. In particular, we're starting from Rome, where we are planning to launch our first to inaugurate our first two vertiports later this year. And by the end of the year, we're planning to have the first route already active, which will be a route connecting Rome International Airport, Rome Fiumicino Airport, with city center, with a location near the Vatican. And the choice of that location is it has a meaning, because towards the end of this year, the city of Rome will start hosting a year-long event which is called Jubilee, where millions of visitors, tourists, and pilgrims are expected to come and reach the city from all over the world, and we want to be ready to offer this additional mode of mobility to citizens and visitors coming from all over the world, in order to allow them to reach the area of the Vatican, so the center of Rome, directly from the airport, from Rome Fiumicino Airport, with a 15-minute flight. So again, you're thinking about intermodality, because you're landing with a traditional airplane. You'll have an electric shuttle that within just a couple of minutes takes you from the runway straight to the vertiport, where you'll be boarding the eVTOL and flying all the way to city center in 15 minutes, where another electric shuttle will be ready to pick you up and drop you off at your final destination. So this is a little bit on a small scale, just one route, few flights per day. We'll start small, and we'll talk about it probably later. Also, because we need to work on driving social acceptance of this new form of mobility. We'll start small scale, but this is the way we envision urban air mobility fitting within the broader context of the evolution of mobility towards a more sustainable and integrated form of transportation.
Oh, thank you, Carlo. Considering the traffic jam that you have between Fiumicino Airport and Rome City Center, I think that the contribution also to the pollution will be great if we can improve this kind of transportation.
We definitely hope so.
Yeah, I can elaborate a bit on what Carlo said, which I totally share. I also imagine this person flying then to the port, catching maybe a cruise with the same means of transportation. So I hope that you will build vertiports every here and there to really make seamless mobility. The way we look at it is what we call, everyone calls in the industry, mobility as a service. That's really what we'd like to embrace. So really intermodality is what we should go for. There are people saying that mobility should become more and more MAAF, so mobility as a feature, should become really pervasive. I think that's still a bit away for urban air mobility, because the way I see it today is high speed, but not yet high capacity means of transportation, right? So when I talk about sustainable mobility in this context, I don't expect too much of emission saving, to be honest, exactly because, as I said, the ramp up will be gradual. And to be honest, we also have to consider that cities are very congested, you're right. But if you have to build additional infrastructure, that means that you are working in fragile cities like Rome. So it's not easy. So that will take some time to come. And even then, the sky is still a finite resource. I don't expect to be able to move everything that is currently on the ground up in the sky right away. So also from that perspective, I don't expect sustainable that much. I think in terms of sustainability, when I look at passenger experience, so the more I make it frictionless for the customer, the better the travel is overall, and in the end, there is also minimization on the overall emissions. That's the way we look at it.
Do you think that passengers are still ready to accept this kind of transportation? Sorry to give you another question, but this is it.
To be honest, I don't think passengers even consider this type of transportation as of today, because it's still a NIC, it's still announced, it's still to come. To be honest, I'm really eager and willing to support this movement, but the risk we have in front of us is what I could call the metaverse effect. There was this buzzword 1 or 2 years ago. Everyone was talking the metaverse. Who is talking any longer, at least for the time being, about metaverse? So Jubilee is really a very interesting event. Paris Olympics are another one, but I don't know how they're doing. I was told that they are struggling to get all the permissions. The Paris Council was really challenging that. So I think everyone should be really focused on making it happen, at least for the initial niche of passengers, which probably will be the more frequent flyer or the more affluent tourist and the like. We can elaborate a bit on that. We'll see.
Thank you. Nacho, I know that you will answer to my question by showing your presentation. So please, if the presentation can start.
I will simply use a couple of, thank you, Fulvia. I will simply use a couple of slides out of my presentation to support basically my answers. But just to start by defining the urban air mobility, it's basically a new mean of transportation for persons and goods in urban areas densely populated using electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft with a pilot on board or remotely piloted. So this is worth mentioning because perhaps we are very much focusing the conversation in terms of we're just transporting people in congested cities. No, urban air mobility also comprises medical delivery services, cargo deliveries, and so on. The benefits that this new mean of mobility provide, that is basically, to answer your question, Fulvia, is basically they establish a third layer, a three-dimension layer of transportation, which is complementary to that exists today in the ground. So basically, it is meant to relieve the traffic congestion in the cities. It is also meant to reduce the traffic accident rate by establishing point A to point B, as Carlo mentioned earlier, automated flight routes. And since the aircraft that are conceived for this new mean of mobility are eVTOL or VTOL capable, they require very little infrastructure and very little volume of airspace to operate. Therefore, the investment to set up that infrastructure is very reduced, and so is their operating costs. And last but not least, the eVTOL technology is meant to reduce pollution and noise, which is meant to make our lives more pleasant. So basically, we have a video here to show you what urban air mobility is and how EHang is contributing with its unmanned aircraft systems to its deployment worldwide.
EHang is bringing the future of transportation into the present. We are making an impact on the daily lives of people around the world. With the world's leading autonomous aerial vehicle, or AAV technologies, we provide safe, autonomous, and eco-friendly air mobility solutions for everyone. The new era of air mobility is here. EHang AAVs offer passengers a relaxing point-to-point flight experience. They fly autonomously, controlled in real time by our command and control center. EHang AAVs keep passengers safe through rapid responses to changing flight conditions. Our AAVs are designed with advanced safety features, such as fully redundant systems and distributed electric propulsion. Furthermore, the autonomous flight is managed through intelligent navigation and powered by clean energy. EHang AAVs offer a brand new angle to view the world with comfortable private aerial sightseeing experiences. From China to Austria, we have completed numerous trials in urban areas and scenic resorts over islands, mountains, and the sea. As an essential part of urban air mobility, aerial logistics is another good application for EHang AAVs. Examples include cargo transport for scenic resorts, offshore oil and gas platforms, and urban aerial delivery. Urban air mobility can be especially valuable in emergency response. An EHang AAV can save critical minutes in the emergency transport of medical staff and supplies, which currently rely on ambulances and helicopters. EHang AAVs solve problems in high-rise firefighting, by utilizing key features such as large payload, high flight altitude, quick response, remote control, and cluster management. An EHang AAV can significantly shorten rescue times and thus reduce casualties. Underpinning the capabilities of EHang AAVs is our centralized command and control center. Here, we control, monitor, and coordinate a fleet of AAVs, setting up point-to-point flight routes and intelligently managed air traffic. EHang innovates by creating solutions in urban mobility, logistics, and other use cases. We move people and things faster, safer, more comfortably, and more sustainably. Our system is the future of transportation for everyone. EHang AAVs will become an essential part of daily life, flying us into the future of urban air mobility.
And just to finalize my speech on this question, what basically differentiates EHang to the other OEMs of eVTOL aircraft is basically our approach into its operation. We consider that eVTOL aircraft for urban air mobility should be unmanned in order to ensure safety, scalability, and commercial profitability. Just to give you a figure, today in the world we have 25,000 commercial aircraft flying in controlled airspace between 1 kilometer and 14 kilometer airspace, 25,000. The forecast for urban air mobility, eVTOL and drone basically foresee 160,000 eVTOL aircraft flying in urban areas, that is without any free space to land in emergency conditions or around those urban areas, just below 200 meters. The only way you can coordinate, manage that level of traffic in such low reduced finite airspace, as you mentioned earlier, Andreas, is by having a centralized, digitalized command and control system that prevents any human error and enables very fast response. And that's basically what differentiates EHang. We have basically developed a complete aircraft system which comprises the eVTOL aircraft, the data link based on 4G, 5G connectivity, and a command and control system that enables us to operate safely, automatically, and efficiently a huge number of eVTOL aircraft in a very low space volume or volume of airspace with a very high concentration of unmanned aircraft vehicles. So in this, no, not available. No, I thought we had a video available. So basically that is the main difference on how EHang is approaching the unfolding of urban air mobility worldwide.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very, very interesting, Nacho. Davide, can you answer to this first question?
Yeah, well, we think that urban air mobility will be the future of mobility, not for the fact that it will completely change the way we will move, basically because we cannot pretend that from tomorrow we will use only eVTOLs, leaving apart all cars, buses, etc. We think that the urban air mobility and in general the advanced air mobility will create a sort of, as I usually say, a second transportation layer above the city, and why not also in the middle of the city where possible. Thinking about city with skyscrapers, we cannot pretend to fly over them. We can fly among them, but this is another topic. Of course, urban air mobility can be a solution to first reduce not the traffic instead, because we are speaking about a bit little numbers, but we can reduce the flying time and of course the moving time that we have to afford moving up to a point to a city of another city. And I don't see this as a key factor for a normal passenger, but I think that is a key point for instance, emergency passengers. For example, first aid vehicles or vehicles that are in a particular emergency conditions, etc. So this is for me the real key point of urban air mobility, what we need really to focus on. Furthermore, we have to remind that we are speaking about vehicles with the name E at the beginning. That means electric. Electric means sustainable energy. So with this, we can, of course, reduce the pollution in the city, but furthermore, with an electric, with the electric configuration of this object, we are not more linked to conventional flight platform like helicopters or plane that everyone know as a wing, as a fuselage, etc. We can create almost any configuration that we want, and this means that we can create all the configuration that we need without any type of limits in terms of technical features. We create all the configuration that we want to satisfy a specific task. And this is the key of the urban air mobility for me.
Thank you. Just a point. You see, the E means sustainable production of electric. It depends on the capability to produce electric power in sustainable way. This is another problem to solve.
Exactly. Of course, this object will require a huge amount of energy. But now the technology is ready to provide us this type of energy. So it's not more a problem about how much energy can we generate. The problem is that how we can deal with this energy and how we can manage this energy in the better way.
Exactly. Thank you. So we have time for a second round of questions, of course. Let me go to the technical aspects that we just touched a little bit, but I would like to consider a little bit more. What do you consider the technical perspectives and the challenges on urban air mobility or generally advanced air mobility, and what is the suggested roadmap to develop it in a proper way?
Shall I start? Okay. So, when you think about these forms of mobility, which we're still not familiar with, we don't see them every day, we typically tend to think that the main challenges are related to technology and to regulation. And while I think this is true, I would argue that, we should distinguish between the challenges that are concerned with the launch of this form, the start of this form of mobility, and the challenges that are related to scaling this form of mobility and making, making it, into a very impactful and large-scale form of transportation. So, in order to launch this form of mobility, I would say technology is there. It's pretty much there. EHang is flying a certified vehicle in Asia. Soon, Europe will certify their aircraft. Some other aircraft, and the US will follow suit in the following months. So technology to start flying on electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft is there. And regulation is also there, actually. Interestingly enough, Italy, just as an example, just to bring it home, the Italian Civil Aviation Authority has already issued draft regulation for advanced air mobility, effectively, so for the operation of VTOL-capable aircraft, that is expected to become final regulation, definitive regulation within the next few weeks. Europe, this is in accordance to the broader regulation that EASA is putting out at the European level. EASA is the European Aviation Safety Agency, so the Civil Aviation Authority of Europe, if you will. And EASA is about to publish regulation at the European level as well. And, there have been draft regulations, what is used to be called technically prototype specification, for a while, for all the players in this industry to have a sense of where the industry is going. So technology is there, but also regulation is there for the most part to start. What I would argue is that the main challenge that most players, including ourselves, will need to face over the next few months and years will be driving and working on social acceptance, on driving social acceptance of this form of mobility, and doing it gradually, doing it in a way that, doesn't, a lot of people could be scared by this form of mobility. When you talk about eVTOL, typically, when I talk about eVTOL with people, typically you can see two different parties. There's the party of the people that ask me, oh, can I be first? And there's the party of people that tell me, okay, you go first. I'll wait for a few more years and a few more thousands of flights before I get on board of this one of these aircraft. And the reality is that certification requirements for these aircraft are so high in terms of safety that if we are comfortable getting on board an airplane for a traditional flight, we should be equally comfortable getting on board an eVTOL whenever they will be operational in Europe and elsewhere in the world. Having said that, working with social acceptance, not only for passengers, not only for people who will get on board this aircraft, but also for citizens, because unlike traditional forms of aviation, we typically tend to be a bit removed from urbanized areas. You're thinking of airports, also heliports in most cities, with probably a handful of examples around the world, of exceptions around the world. But even heliports in most cities are a bit removed from highly densely inhabited areas. The beauty of eVTOL is that because they're quiet, because they are zero emission, because of the distributed propulsion, which means not a lot of air, like the mass of air that is moved at takeoff and landing is not as big as that of a helicopter. Because of all these features, eVTOL will be able to land in vertiports that are placed in the heart of cities, and we are not used to have this sort of flying machines land in our backyard, near our home. And so I would argue that social acceptance is one of the major challenges. And we are seeing this. We are seeing this in Rome, but we are developing projects in other areas in Italy, for example, in the Venice area, in the Bologna area. We're developing projects in Europe, in Côte d'Azur, in the south of France, in Spain, together with AENA. The company that effectively manages all the airports in Spain. We're developing projects in the Middle East, in Latin America, and wherever you go and talk about introducing this for mobility, social acceptance remains one of the key challenges that need to be addressed in order for this form of mobility to succeed and be able to scale.
Thank you, Carlo, because you focus exactly the important point for the rapid development of these systems. Andrea?
Yes, I can elaborate on that. I totally agree. Social acceptance is important. I realize that people, they don't love numbers, they don't love statistics. So even if air transport is amongst the most secure ways of transportation, there is still something frightening when you know that there are pilots that could just kidnap an airplane and 200 people and just disappear from the radars. And if you look at the urban air mobility, there is something frightening considering that an incident will happen for sure. So social acceptance is something that we need to win and we need to maintain. And maintaining that is not going to be easy. So we need to be ready for when the first incident will happen. And when it will happen, it will be in an urban context. So that's something that we still, I think, we need to figure out. If we can add another challenge is financial sustainability. As said before, it's going to be difficult to reach the scale to make sure that the proper infrastructure is going to be profitable as well as the flights are going to be profitable. Talking when moving people, but also all the other use cases that Ignazio already shared before. What we are trying to do into this context is to look at the broader passenger experience and how to make sure that this is not going to be amongst the additional challenges. So how do we see these? We look at first who the passengers are going to be. Because that's clearly no one size fits all. And if we look at the passenger, we identified at least 4 major personas. There are going to be, at the beginning, for sure, the frequent flyer and the business people. But then there might going to be also the affluent tourist. I just read an article of an interesting luxury kind of vacation on a train in Italy. It has just been announced and it's fully booked. So there is this market, and most likely there could be also this demand to serve in the coming period. Then there are the VIP. As said, it's going to be high-speed, low-capacity transportation at the beginning. So maybe to win some ambassador, we need to consider that. And all the media people and influencers are the 4 categories. But even when you visualize those 4 categories that have different demands, then there are special conditions that we will have to tackle, maybe not on the first commercial flight, but think about people with disabilities, people traveling with any size pets, elderly people, I think we should consider, families. I know there could be some 6 people transport with soon, but at the beginning, would you see anyone flying with a family of 5 into Fiumicino and taking 2 or 3 flights to reach downtown? That will not work, simply not acceptable. And then luggage. I mean, everyone understands that we need to move the people, but also the luggage. So there are several challenges over there that we need to consider. And even more, there is frictions, because we have people who are taking care of the flight, people who are taking care of the point-to-point, but who is considering what's happening before and later, integrating airport to vertiport as example. Or yes, you said there will be a shuttle waiting for you, but if the shuttle goes on top of the fee for the mobility of the flight, then it's going to be a challenge. I don't see anyone reaching downtown with a flight and then taking the underground or any public transport to reach the final destination, to be honest. No? So there are challenges there. What we did into this context, very briefly, because I know we're running out of time, we tried to quantify as much as possible the passenger experience. So we created a model. It's still clearly in its infancy, that put together use cases and the roadmap to implement those use cases, a lot of variables that could judge the passenger experience during the flight or in general as an experience, and some 60 digital enablers that could relieve or improve this digital experience. And we're trying to make as quantitative possible what today is still emotional, as we just said, as a travel. I think this is something that will need evidence from the market. We will go for external validation soon. The first flights will also help out. So maybe we can discuss in one of the coming VTM on the progress there.
Thank you. Thank you. You consider very interesting aspects of this kind of future, not so long, but future transportation system. Nacho, it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I completely concur with both of you. As I mentioned earlier, the integration of eVTOL aircraft in very low level volumes of airspace and very congested air traffic is, and their integration with conventional aviation is one challenge that UTM, US Space in Europe is currently tackling. So is EHang with our approach I mentioned earlier. Social acceptance. There is also one, let's say, side of it that kind of we're not really putting much focus on, which is the affordability. Okay, obviously, this technology has to be safe, goes for granted, and it has to be accessible, so it is, and provide benefits to the society, so it is embraced. But if they cannot afford it, they will never accept it. I mean, at the end of the day, if I live in my city and I'm constantly seeing very nice eVTOLs flying around, and I see that instead of building a park in the middle of the city, they build a very nice vertiport with a very posh Starbucks cafe in it, and I cannot use that mean of transportation, I will never accept it. Okay, so basically we really need to communicate the benefits of this new mean of mobility, and that takes me back to what I mentioned earlier. Perhaps the urban air mobility is only one part of the application of this technology, but there are many countries which unfortunately do not have the necessary infrastructures. And you require something like 2 to 3 hours to go over 100 kilometers. Perhaps you can do that in 15 minutes with an eVTOL. And it happens that you will be flying in a sustainable and safe manner over an sparsely populated area without any buildings underneath it, and you will be improving the lives of everybody. So sustainable mobility, improving the lives. And then that takes us to the affordability. It has to be accessible. An eVTOL worth $3 million, it's impossible that can be affordable for a normal citizen, a ticket. The figures don't work like that. You really need to have really smart designs and accurate costing structures, agile business models to really provide this service at an affordable price. That's basically what EHang is after. We are looking at being able to scaling up our operations with a very big number of eVTOL aircraft with the same command and control system, all integrated safely. And that allows us to scale up with, let's say, end user price affordable. And that's basically the side of the social acceptance that I am kind of missing when we are all talking about that aspect. Just to finalize, I would also raise the batteries. Batteries, in terms of technology, are kind of the bottleneck in the developments today. The design and the development and certification of the eVTOL aircraft are kind of consuming most of the resources of the OEMs. But as soon as the commercial operations start and we start receiving funds from organic revenues operations, we will start investing heavily in the enhancement of those batteries. They will last longer, they will have more power density, and they will be able to be recharged in a shorter period of time.
Thank you, Nacho. You pointed out a very, very important aspect on this. Davide, it's up to you.
Yeah, I fully agree with all my colleagues, but I would like to add another point. We had always spoken about city and urban air mobility, and it's like, okay, here we are the city, and here we are the urban air mobility. The key feature to get the social acceptance of this innovative technology that now we see as an innovative technology, because it actually is, but it is the same for it was the same for the plane at the beginning of the century. So we are not reinventing anything new. And the fact is that we have to create to find the best way to merge this technology with the current environment that we have in our city. Basically, we have to make this technology as closer as possible as something that a typical citizen can see as a daily activity. So, you know, a public transport is something that everyone is able to manage. We have to make the same for the eVTOL technology, making it as the same level of a conventional bus or taxi or any type of vehicles. This, in my opinion, is the really key to get the citizen acceptance of this new technology.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Do you need, we have a couple of minutes, no more. Do you need to show something of the Sky Spark? Just a picture if you want, but
well, I will use this time just to. I told you before that as DG Sky we are dealing with urban air mobility in this current day. I would like to show you just a couple of slides in order to not stall you so much time.
A couple of minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
About what we are currently doing about the urban air mobility. Of course, I will jump direct to the slide. Okay, so we are now in Turin. That is a city that has a pretty unique features, not only in Italy, but I'm quite confident to say in the world. We are the home of the automotive and also the home of the aerospace, with over a century of experience. The urban air mobility will be a sort of cross between these two sectors. So we jokingly create the name Aeromotive, also to design, also to create this new sector. Allow me to say it. So we would like to, as a company DG Sky, we would like to promote the urban air mobility in our territory, not with the creation of another eVTOL, because there are already the first mover, like Young on my side, Volocopter, you all know all the others. We would like to create a sort of supply chain for these first movers. So in order to demonstrate that our territory has the knowledge and also the capability to develop complex projects such as eVTOL. So we are not speaking about creating new eVTOLs, new flying vehicles. We would like to provide a supply chain for these types of vehicles. So that was our main idea.
So this could be the contribution of not only our region, but referring to the experience of our region in this subject. That's
yeah, exactly. I speak about Turin, but with Turin I mean Turin and neighbors, and why not also Italy?
Yeah, of course. Outside Italy, possibly. That's right. Well, so we are approaching to the end of the time that we have for this panel. So let me thank Carlo, Andrea, Nacho, and Davide for your very, very interesting contribution. It was really a privilege for me to moderate your presentation, because I think that you really gave a clear picture of what is the situation of the advanced air mobility, in particular urban air mobility at this time. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.